10,000 feet above Davis, California. 34 skydivers join in a diamond formation. It's a spectacular and very dangerous maneuver. One wrong move means disaster. Cameraman Brian Scott spots trouble right away.
As I'm watching the formation build, I noticed the formation just seemed a little soft and soggy. It didn't look square. That could have meant that the airspeed wasn't as high as on some previous dives.
One skydiver attempts to take his place on the outside of the formation, but he loses control. Suddenly, he's tangled in another diver's lines. Both chutes collapse. Now the pair is locked in a death spiral.
It started going on longer and longer, and I knew that there was a problem, that he couldn't get something cut off.
Brian can only watch as they plunge toward the ground at nearly 100 miles an hour.
We started out, I think, at around 9,500 feet. I looked out at the horizon, I said, we're getting rather low, and I looked at my altimeter, and we were at about 1,000 feet.
One skydiver manages to free himself. But Alan Gutschall is still hopelessly tangled. He spins violently. He's on the verge of a blackout. But Alan keeps his cool and takes out a knife. He desperately tries to cut himself free, but the knife breaks.
That's just the piece of gear that we all live and die by. I was getting nervous as we passed through 1,000 feet.
And amazingly, Alan has a second knife. He cuts the lines and pulls his reserve chute, only 500 feet from certain death. Incredibly, he insists on jumping again.
When we got to the ground, we were all just ecstatic, and we were ready for the next skydive. Alan's back in the air that afternoon.
It's a terrifying ordeal, but any jump is a good one when you can walk away. Mechanicsburg, Pennsylvania.
Green is out. Lance for the lead.
Tiny sprint cars tear up the track at the Williams Grove Speedway. Then car number 12 comes up from behind. Up and over. The race car is hurled end over end. It shreds. Shards of jagged steel cut across the path of the other drivers. They're hitting 120 miles an hour as they slam into the wreckage. Car number 12 only stops rolling when another sprinter takes flight, then crashes down on top of it. Track workers separate the cars with their bare hands. Thankfully, there are no drivers crushed at the bottom of the wreck. They're lucky to be alive after their sprint cars were reduced to a pile of scrap. Las Vegas, Nevada. 2 a.m. on the Strip. The man in the cowboy hat is a gardener at the nearby hotel casino. He's minding his own business when suddenly a man in a baseball cap sneaks up and smashes the gardener in the jaw. 10 other men jump in. It's a savage gang attack. The man manages to break away. but the thugs chase him down. It's now 15 against 1. They surround him, unleashing a vicious barrage of blows. The attackers finally run away. Incredibly, the man gets to his feet. He walks away with a broken jaw and collarbone. Police use this video to make arrests. They say the gardener was simply the unfortunate victim of random violence. One of the most brutal and bizarre attacks this city has ever seen. Vancouver, British Columbia. A horrifying scene. 9-year-old Cody Barnard is trapped on a ledge with his dog named Chaos. The North Vancouver Fire and Rescue Team responds.
He was on the edge of a cliff, which was probably 75 to 100 feet down onto further rocks. So he was in a pretty precarious position, and the rocks, especially this time of year, are quite slippery and they're covered in moss.
Cody tries to hang on to the shaking dog and keep from falling.
We are involved in a lot of rescues in the canyons in this area, and some are, regrettably, their body retrievals.
Like, every time Chaos would move, I would tell him to not, but I would start slipping. It was terrifying. It was absolutely terrifying.
At last, help arrives.
All I heard was, "Set up quickly! Set up quickly!"
They just set up their descent line and put one of the rescuers in a harness and give him another harness to put the boy in. And they also took along a net to put the dog in.
One mistake and 3 lives could be lost. Finally, Cody and Chaos are safe.
I owe these guys my life.
Cody was on that cliff for more than an hour. But he'd do it again if it meant saving the life of his best friend.
This was something that I needed to do. I wasn't thinking about myself at that very second. I was thinking more of the dog.